Eli Warren stood at the very edge of the diplomatic cruiser's bridge, his reflection fractured by the enormous viewport as the ship glided through the abyss. Ahead loomed the Zalith Prime orbital citadel, its vast hull swirling with sapphire and gold in intricate, hypnotic bands. The station looked less like a place built for peace, and more like a fortress, ready to consume any who dared approach. Eli's jaw tightened. He wore a crisp uniform that felt like a lie. Ambassador Mira Chen's footsteps rang out behind him, sharp and measured. She joined him, her expression unreadable, the faint lines around her eyes betraying only a flicker of tension. "You could have warned me, Mira," Eli said, voice low. "Or did you enjoy sending me on a suicide mission?" Mira's lips pressed into a thin line. "This wasn't my decision. The council made the call." Eli let out a humorless chuckle. "Of course. The council. My unique honor." He tapped the rail, restless. "Convenient that I'm just expendable enough." She turned to him, her mask slipping. "Eli, it's not about you. The Zalith matriarch's touch is deadly. We don't know why certain humans survive. We need answers." Her tone softened, a rare vulnerability. "You're not being thrown away?" "Feels like it," Eli muttered, but he saw the worry ghost across her face. The cruiser shuddered as magnetic clamps locked with the station, and Mira pressed a small device into his palm, a sleek earpiece, faintly glowing. "Direct neural uplink," she murmured. "Earth Command will have your back. Whatever happens, this won't be in vain." Eli slid the device into his ear, hiding his doubt behind a practiced smirk. "Well, here goes nothing." A team of Zalith escorts awaited beyond the airlock, tall, elegant, their uniforms woven with gold thread. Their faces were angular, almost feline, their eyes glimmering with violet intelligence. They gestured for Eli to follow. He was swept into a procession that wound through the citadel's crystalline heart. The corridors pulsed with shifting light, fractals racing along the walls as if alive. The floor beneath his boots depicted scenes of Zalith conquest, entire galaxies reduced to curling motifs of victory. The air shimmered with a tang of ozone and alien perfume. Alien dignitaries flanked him, many wrapped in ceremonial garb, all wary. Ahead, a Loranian ambassador, her skin a translucent green, trembled as she reached the dais. Matriarch Sira awaited there, regal and forbidding, her form draped in cascading silver. The Loranian's hand touched Sira's, and in a heartbeat, she collapsed, life snuffed out by a mere brush of skin. The chamber fell silent but for the low hum of Zalith machinery. Eli's turn came. He stepped forward, refusing to kneel, his heart pounding. Sira's eyes, the color of amethyst, locked onto his. She extended her hand, claws gleaming. He hesitated only a fraction, then took it. He braced for pain, for death. Instead, there was nothing, only warmth. Gasps rippled around them. Eli met Sira's gaze, refusing to flinch. "Incredible," Sira whispered, her voice a melody laced with danger. She lifted her chin, signaling her guards. "Take him for analysis. I want answers." Rough hands guided Eli through more labyrinthine corridors, the air thick with anticipation. He was stripped down, clinical lights casting sharp shadows over his exposed skin. Zalith scientists surrounded him, led by Dr. Vera, who moved with predatory focus. Vera's eyes devoured the readings as Eli's blood was drawn, skin cells scraped, neural responses measured. "His cells adapt," Vera muttered, rapt. "They neutralize the toxin almost instantaneously. Fascinating." Time slipped. Probes pressed cold against his veins. Strange fluids sparkled in glass tubes. Eli's world narrowed to white light, alien voices, the dull ache of exhaustion. Then, a hush. Sira entered, every movement as fluid as a dancer's, dismissing the others with a single gesture. Alone, she circled him, bare-chested, muscles taut from restraint, sweat glistening on his brow. Syrah's skin was midnight violet, her hair a shimmering black cascade. Her feline ears twitched as she studied him, eyes fathomless. She trailed a clawed finger over his shoulder. The touch was gentle, almost intimate. "You're a puzzle," she said, her voice softer than before. "Perhaps a valuable one." Eli mustered a crooked smile. "So I'm just your latest cultural experiment?" Syrah's laughter rang out, sharp and melodic, echoing around the sterile chamber. It was inhuman and strangely beautiful. "Perhaps, or perhaps something more." She leaned in, her gaze never leaving his. "You will be studied, but first, I want to know you." 3 cycles later, Eli was no longer a captive. He had become something stranger, a guest of honor, or perhaps a curiosity, ensconced in quarters so lavish and alien that he sometimes felt adrift inside a waking dream. His new residence was a marvel of Zalith organic architecture, walls flowing in seamless arcs of living crystal, their veins pulsing with golden light. Furniture curved from the floors like the roots of ancient trees, upholstered with a material softer than silk and warmer than skin. Technology was woven into everything, invisible but omnipresent. A door that slid open at a gesture, a window that shimmered with the illusion of distant forests, a console that responded to his voice in melodious Zalithian tones. Dr. Vera visited daily, bringing updates and tests, always with a scientist's hunger for novelty. This morning she hovered near his bed, a sleek bioscanner in her clawed hands. "Your biology remains stable, Eli," Vera announced, her voice clipped, violet eyes gleaming with professional satisfaction. "No sign of cellular deterioration. Your adaptation to matriarch Syrah's toxin holds. You are, as always, an anomaly." Eli feigned a wry smile. "Glad to be your favorite lab rat." Vera's ears flicked with amusement, but before she could respond, the door swept open and matriarch Syrah entered. Vera straightened at once, bowing her head. "Leave us," Syrah said, her tone soft but commanding. Vera obeyed without protest, the door closing behind her with a susurrus of silk. Syrah stood for a moment taking in the scene. In the morning light, her skin was a tapestry of indigo and violet, her features statuesque and inscrutable. She wore a ceremonial sash, the silver threads catching every stray photon. When she met Eli's eyes, there was something almost playful in her gaze. "May I sit?" she asked, with an ironic tilt of her head. "It's your citadel," Eli replied, gesturing to the seat across from him. She folded herself gracefully into the chair, her posture regal even in repose. "You have become quite the political tempest, Eli Warren. The council cannot agree whether you are a miracle, a threat, or both." She rested a clawed hand on the table, tracing idle patterns. "Some accuse Earth of genetic manipulation." Eli frowned. "You don't believe them." "I do not know what to believe," Syrah admitted. "But the accusations have forced my hand. I would see you shielded and your world elevated. I propose a new arrangement." She leaned forward, her eyes intent. "Become my official companion." In Zalith tradition, such a role would grant you protection, and Earth, legitimacy among the stars. Eli hesitated, the offer heavy as a yoke. "That's not something I can decide on my own. I need to contact my people." Syrah nodded, unsurprised. "Of course, I will grant you access. But know this: others circle, hungry for advantage. Time is not on your side." She rose, her presence filling the room. "I will return for your answer." She left Eli alone with his thoughts, the silence thick with implication. He crossed to the comm console, its surface rippling beneath his touch. A blue holographic interface blossomed, connecting him to Earth's diplomatic channel. Ambassador Chen's image flickered into being, her face pale, eyes wide. Eli? Her voice trembled. You're alive. Thank God. He smiled, tension draining from his shoulders. Alive. And apparently the Zalith's new favorite controversy. Sira wants me to accept a public role as her companion. She claims it'll protect me and give Earth a seat at the big table. Mira's gaze sharpened. It's more than that, Eli. The Council's in chaos. This alliance could change everything. Our technology, our influence, maybe even keep the peace. You must accept. He searched her face, seeking any hint of doubt. Are you sure this is what Earth wants? What you want? She hesitated, but her answer was clear. We need this, Eli. It's bigger than any of us. He nodded, the weight settling on his chest. Tell them I agree. That evening, the Citadel thrummed with anticipation. Eli donned ceremonial robes of black and silver, the fabric alive with shifting patterns. Sira met him at his door, her own attire a masterpiece of Zalith craftsmanship. Together they moved through illuminated corridors, guards and dignitaries bowing in their wake. The council hall was a cathedral of crystal, vast and echoing, its ceiling lost in a haze of golden mist. At the heart stood a dais, upon which sat the 7 matriarchs, each an icon of alien beauty and power. Their robes radiated authority, their expressions carved from stone. Sira guided Eli to her side, hand resting lightly on his arm. Murmurs rippled through the assembly as he took his place. Matriarch Thalin, her features sharp as obsidian, rose. Earth's envoy stands accused, she declared, her voice ringing with cold clarity. Your so-called immunity is an affront. Was it engineered? Or is it mere fortune? She fixed Eli with a stare that could pierce steel. Prove your innocence. Endure the Rylos gauntlet. Exposure to each matriarch's toxin. Survive, and your world's honor stands. Fail, and you reveal Earth's deceit. A hush fell, broken only by the crackle of crystal circuits. Sira squeezed Eli's arm. He met Thalin's gaze, defiant but afraid. That night, sleep eluded him. His quarters felt smaller, the walls closer. Restless, Eli prowled the room, searching for distraction. His eyes fell on the comm console, still open to Earth's secure channel. A new message blinked. Encrypted. Priority read. He hesitated, then accessed the file. What unspooled before him chilled him to the core. Project Remedy. Lines of code and medical scans, chemical formulas and genetic profiles. He read of a plan. His own DNA, spliced and reworked, tailored to withstand Sira's venom. And more. He was designed not only to survive, but to carry a payload, a tailored agent meant to permanently neutralize Sira's toxin and render her powerless. The alliance was only a veneer. He was not envoy, not diplomat. He was a weapon. He staggered back from the console, bile rising in his throat. Guilt crashed over him in waves. The council had used him, just as he'd feared, but more cruelly than he'd ever guessed. A soft chime broke his spiral. The door whispered open, and Sira stepped in. She saw his distress at once, her fierce bearing softening. Eli. Her voice was gentler than he'd ever heard. She crossed the room in 2 strides, reaching for him. When he didn't recoil, she brushed her fingers along his cheek. No claws, just skin, impossibly tender. What troubles you? She asked, almost whispering. He shook his head, words choking in his throat. There are things I need to tell you. Her expression was unreadable, but her eyes, those deep amethyst pools, were open, vulnerable. Tell me. But the comm console chimed again, more urgent, slicing the moment in half. Eli turned, hands trembling. The message was terse, unmistakable, immediate extraction ordered by Earth. Threats detected, sabotage imminent. Return at once. Sierra read the message over his shoulder, her face hardening. They would take you from me? Now, at the brink? Eli drew a shaky breath, meeting her eyes. I can't run. Not after everything. Not when peace, or war, might depend on me. She searched his face, the tension between them electric. For a moment, neither moved. Then you will face the trial? Sierra asked quietly. I will, Eli answered, voice steady. No matter what comes. Sierra's lips parted, something like hope flickering in her gaze. The outcome would decide more than just his fate. It would decide the future of two worlds. The Rylo's gauntlet commenced beneath the blinding white lights of the amphitheater, a chamber vast enough to swallow ships. Tens of thousands of Zalith ringed the galleries above, their bodies aglow with shifting bioluminescence, every movement reflected in the crystal walls. Confederation dignitaries and military observers ringed the lower levels, eyes glinting with suspicion and hunger. Eli stood at the center of it all, stripped to the waist, heart pounding beneath a film of cold sweat. A dais loomed at the far end, the 7 matriarchs arrayed in a semicircle of silver and indigo. Sierra's gaze met his from her seat. Steady, a touch of worry breaking through her regal facade. Doctor. Vera hovered at the edge of the arena, medical drones pulsing at her side. The air was thick with anticipation and the acrid tang of fear. Eli's thoughts chased themselves in circles. He felt hollowed out by stress and secrets, haunted by Project Remedy, by what he was, a weapon in diplomat's clothing. Yet, despite it all, the pull of Syra's faith in him anchored him in place. He rolled his shoulders, bracing for what was to come. An announcer's voice reverberated through the amphitheater, melodious and cold. The human will undergo exposure to each matriarch's toxin to prove the truth of his claim. The first matriarch rose, robed in emerald and gold. She extended a slender hand, talons gleaming with drops of clear venom. Eli stepped forward, jaw set. She pressed her fingers to his forearm. The pain came like a brand, searing, immediate. His vision whited out at the edges. He grit his teeth, refusing to fall. Vera's voice, cool and professional, echoed in his ear via the neural uplink. Adrenaline spike, hold Eli. The matriarch withdrew. A medic scanned him, his skin reddened but the swelling receded. He staggered, breath ragged. Cheers and murmurs swept the stands. The second matriarch approached, her venom numbing and cold. She touched his neck, and sensation fled from his jaw to his chest. Eli swayed, struggling to remain upright. The crowd's whispers sharpened into a susurrus of doubt and awe. By the third exposure, Eli's body was a battlefield of competing agonies. This matriarch's toxin blurred his vision. Colors bled, shapes wavered. He blinked furiously, fighting for clarity. His knees buckled, but he caught himself on the rim of the pedestal. Sierra's hand gripped her seat. The fourth matriarch's toxin felt like fire threading through his veins, burning out every thought except pain. He gasped, unable to mask the sound. Blood dripped from where her claws had nicked his shoulder, the wound hissing as the venom reacted with his altered cells. Still, Eli did not collapse. The amphitheater fell silent except for his ragged breaths. The fifth matriarch's venom was subtler, a creeping fog that gnawed at his consciousness. Eli's mind drifted, memories surfacing unbidden. Childhood on Earth, a mother's voice, Mira's warning. He nearly slipped away, but Vera's distant voice snapped him back. Eli, focus. Almost through. He was trembling now, sweat running in rivers down his spine. His legs barely supported him, the world spinning in slow, nauseating circles. The sixth matriarch was Sierra. She simply touched his cheek, her venom already neutralized within him. Warmth radiated from her touch, and for a fleeting moment, Eli felt whole, anchored in her steady gaze. Then it was Matriarch Thalin's turn. She stood, taller than the others, draped in robes of midnight blue. Her expression was severe, lips twisted with skepticism. She raised her hand, venom glistening, and paused. "Is the human ready for the final test?" Thalin's voice rang out, a challenge to the entire hall. Eli nodded, barely able to speak. "Do it." Before Thalin could move, chaos erupted. The doors at the back of the amphitheater slammed open. Ambassador Chen swept in, flanked by Earth's security, their uniforms crisp and weapons holstered but visible. Her voice boomed across the arena, amplified by the Citadel's systems. "This trial is a farce," Chen declared, striding toward the dais. "Earth demands its envoy be released. We will not tolerate this spectacle." Security spread through the lower levels, drawing shouts and alarm from Confederation delegates. Thalin glared, Syra rose from her seat, and the amphitheater devolved into chaos. Voices clashing, threats exchanged in a dozen languages. Eli fought to steady himself, lungs burning. "Stop!" he shouted, surprising even himself. "I invoke the Rylos' ancient right, trial by truth." The chamber stilled. All eyes turned to him. Eli drew himself upright, voice steady despite the tremor in his limbs. "Earth lied," he said, his words echoing in the crystal dome. "I was engineered. Project Remedy. Not just immune, meant to carry a compound to neutralize Syrah's toxin." He looked to Syrah, agony and apology in his gaze. "But I am not a weapon for anyone. I choose truth." He stepped forward, extending his arm. "Finish the test." Thalin's eyes narrowed, but she pressed her palm to his. Her venom, darker than the others, oozed into his skin. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then dark lines, like fractured glass, spiderwebbed up his arm. Eli convulsed, pain arching him backward. He collapsed to the cold crystal floor, vision shattering into black. The world faded in and out, hands on his body, Vera's swift, clinical, Syrah's gentle, trembling. A voice, Syrah's, fierce with emotion. "He has proven loyalty to truth above all. He is no pawn, he is a bridge." He drifted through fevered dreams, Mira's desperate face, Thalin's venom burning through his veins, Syrah's hand in his. He woke to muted light, the sound of crystal chimes, the cool brush of Vera's instruments. "Welcome back," Vera murmured, relief plain in her usually distant eyes. Eli struggled to sit up. Syrah was there, waiting beside his bed, her armor gone, a simple robe falling in soft folds around her. She studied him with a gaze that was both calculating and deeply vulnerable. "Earth's delegates are detained," she said quietly. "The Confederation is divided. Some see your act as proof of our right to peace, others as cause for war. My authority is fragile. Their fleet is moving closer even now." Eli's voice was hoarse. "What happens now?" Syrah hesitated. "The compound in your blood. Earth designed it only to strip me of my power. But Vera and I discovered more. It doesn't just neutralize the toxin. It could stabilize the matriarchs, prolong our lives. Our venom kills us slowly, Eli. You carry hope, not just for me, but for all Zalith." Eli stared, the truth settling on him with strange clarity. "So I'm not just a weapon?" "No," Syrah said. She reached for his hand, fingers warm and sure. "You could be a partner. If we share what we have, trade knowledge. Together, perhaps we can survive what comes next." Through the viewport, the distant shimmer of Earth's fleet grew brighter, engines blazing. Time was running out, but for the first time since his arrival, Eli felt a fragile thread of hope binding him to this alien world and to Syrah. Eli's body still trembled from the ordeal, his skin marked with ghostly traces of venom and fever. But as the alarms of imminent war echoed through the citadel, he found a strength born not of biology, but of purpose. Syrah stood at his side in her quarters, regal and tense, her eyes never leaving the distant shimmer of Earth's fleet through the viewport. "I have to see Ambassador Chen," Eli said, his voice rough but resolute. "We can't negotiate peace if you keep Earth's envoy locked away." Syrah's gaze was wary. "You are weak, Eli. You almost died in the arena. Why risk yourself again?" "Because I know Mira. She'll listen to me, if no one else. Let me try." He placed a shaking hand over Syrah's. "This has to end differently, for both our peoples." She considered him in silence, then nodded once. "You will not go alone. Vera will monitor you, and my guards will watch the entrance." "I am trusting you, Eli." He managed a grateful smile. "Thank you." The holding area was a stark contrast to the opulence of the rest of the citadel. Steel walls, hard lighting, the atmosphere brittle with tension. Mira Chen sat at a table, arms folded, eyes hard. She rose as Eli entered, worry flickering across her expression before the diplomat's mask returned. "Eli, you look like hell," she said softly. "Better than I feel," he replied, sinking into the seat across from her. "But I'm alive. No thanks to Earth." Her jaw tightened. "We did what we had to. The Zalith matriarchs used their venom as a tool of tyranny. Project Remedy was the only way to level the field." "Is that what I am to you?" Eli's voice shook with anger and something deeper. "A tool? You sent me here as a weapon, Mira. You never even gave me a choice." She met his gaze, stubborn. "You knew the risks. Earth's survival has always come first." He let the silence stretch, letting her words linger in the sterile air. Finally, Eli leaned forward, voice low but urgent. "There's another way. The compound in my blood doesn't just neutralize Syrah's toxin. It can stabilize the matriarch's biology, end their dependence on venom as power. We can share the formula, but only if Earth is willing to share too." Mira's eyes narrowed. "What do you want?" "Zalith technology. Share the stabilizer in exchange for advanced propulsion and energy systems. A real alliance, Mira, not sabotage." "You know I'm right." She hesitated, calculation and hope warring in her face. "The Council will demand proof. Something tangible." Eli nodded. "Syrah will demonstrate herself, and you'll get your hands on the propulsion blueprints. But we do this together. No more secrets." Chen's expression softened, exhaustion overtaking defiance. "I'll present it to the Council, but if Earth refuses, then I'll stay here and help the Zalith myself." Eli cut in, voice steady. "I'm done being your pawn." Mira looked at him for a long moment, then nodded, a reluctant respect in her eyes. "I'll do what I can." Back in Syrah's private lab, Dr. Vera was already waiting, her hands moving with surgical precision over a crystalline workbench. A vial of blood, shimmering with flecks of alien blue, rested in a containment field. Vera glanced up as Eli entered with Syrah. "We're close," she said, voice taut with anticipation. "But to finish the prototype, I require a fresh sample of your venom, matriarch. The final reaction must occur in vivo." Syrah's eyes flicked to Eli, apprehension in their depths. "It will hurt." Eli reached for her hand, steadying her. "You don't have to do this alone." Her lips quirked in a small, grateful smile. She extended her forearm, baring the violet skin, and Vera swabbed the surface before positioning the injector. Syrah's claws flexed against the pain as the needle drew her venom, the process leaving her faintly trembling. Eli tightened his grip, anchoring her through the discomfort. Vera wasted no time, combining Syrah's venom with the stabilizer cultured from Eli's cells. The reaction was immediate. A flash of iridescent light, the compound settling to a tranquil gold. Vera drew a precise measure and injected it into Sierra's arm. They waited. For several heartbeats, nothing happened. Then Sierra exhaled, her posture relaxing as the burn beneath her skin faded. Vera ran a scanner along Sierra's veins. No toxic reaction. Toxin is neutralized. She allowed herself a rare smile. It works. A summons soon arrived. The Confederation's Grand Chamber was to host a summit. Eli and Sierra moved through the crystalline corridors, flanked by a guard of honor. The chamber itself was breathtaking, all facets and starfire, tiers filled with delegates from every allied world. At the center stood Admiral Reyes, Earth's representative. Tall, broad-shouldered, his uniform bristling with medals and a general's distrust. "Before Earth can consider this alliance," Reyes intoned, voice echoing, "we demand proof. Words and promises are not enough." Sierra stepped forward, every inch the matriarch, but now with Eli at her side. "You want proof?" she asked, and in a gesture that stilled the entire hall, she raised her hand and, before any could object, drew a single drop of venom from her fingertip. Eli extended his hand. Sierra pressed her palm to his, letting her venom seep into his skin. Nothing happened. The stabilizer protected him, as always. But then, to the shock of all, Sierra pressed her still-tainted hand to her own forearm, where the venom should have burned, blistered, poisoned. Instead, the skin remained smooth, unbroken. A stunned silence. Even the crystalline walls seemed to pulse in response. Admiral Reyes stepped down from the dais, his skepticism shaken. "You risked your life. Both of you. Why?" Eli met his gaze. "Because peace is worth risk, and so is trust." Reyes's stern facade cracked, just a little. "Earth will agree to the alliance in principle, but negotiations must continue. Technology, science, culture, shared equally." Sierra inclined her head. "Agreed. The Zalith will no longer rule through fear. Our future will be forged together." The summit dissolved into a rush of interpreters and envoys, the chamber alive with hope and urgency. Agreements were drafted in real time: Earth's immunity protocols, Zalith propulsion systems, a framework for scientific exchange. The atmosphere was tense, but the specter of war had begun to fade. Later, as the grand chamber emptied and the stars wheeled quietly beyond the windows, Eli and Sierra found a quiet alcove. The events of the day hung between them. Risk and triumph, the promise of something new. "You were brave today," Eli said softly. "Not just in the chamber. With me. You let yourself be vulnerable." Sierra regarded him, her features softening. "Risk is new to me." Matriarchs are taught to command, not to trust. Leadership, real leadership, means showing the way, even when you're afraid. He reached for her, and she let him. Sierra's slender fingers entwined with Eli's, the gesture speaking more than words. A silent pledge, intimate and irrevocable. As the chamber lights dimmed and the last echoes of debate faded, Eli knew the line between companion and partner had truly begun to blur. Together, they stood on the cusp of a future neither world could have imagined, one forged in trust, courage, and something dangerously close to love. At the renewed summit, Eli stood once more in the grand chamber, the crystalline dome gleaming with morning light. Delegates filled the tiers, Earth's Admiralty in stiff uniforms, Zalith matriarchs arrayed in silken indigo, Confederation envoys murmuring among themselves. Cameras hovered, recording every word for history. At the center dais, Admiral Reyes and Matriarch Sierra presided, their attention fixed on Eli. "We require your answer," Admiral Reyes declared, voice resonant. "Earth requests your immediate return. You have served your mission well, and your knowledge is too valuable to remain abroad." From across the chamber, Matriarch Syrah's gaze was unreadable. "You have a place here, Eli Warren," she intoned, regal and intense. "As my companion, you would be cherished and protected. The Zalith need you." The silence was a held breath. Eli felt the eyes of two worlds pressing against his skin, demanding loyalty. He could sense the expectations in every glance, Earth's hunger for his secrets, Syrah's hope for his answer, the Confederation's wary curiosity. He took a step forward, drawing on the resolve forged by trial and loss. "I can't choose one world over the other," Eli said, his voice ringing clear. "I'm not only Earth's envoy, nor solely Zalith's consort. I propose a third way." Murmurs swept the chamber. Syrah leaned forward, her brows drawn together. "I offer myself as an interspecies liaison," Eli continued, gaze sweeping the assembly. "A bridge, accountable to both Earth and the Confederation. My unique perspective is our best chance to ensure cooperation and prevent future betrayals. Both sides have risked much. Both deserve trust, and someone to guard it." The proposal landed like a thunderclap. For a moment the chamber was utterly still. Then voices erupted, some in support, others in doubt. The debate was fierce and immediate. "He cannot serve two masters," an Earth delegate shouted. "He is the only one who has risked for both," argued a Zalith counselor. Admiral Reyes exchanged a long, silent look with Syrah, weighing the risks. "It is unprecedented," he admitted, "but these are unprecedented times." Syrah's fingers curled around the edge of the dais, her voice steady. "He has proven his loyalty to truth, not to power. That is what we need." At last, after tense negotiation, the chamber reached consensus. "So be it," Reyes said, his tone heavy with the magnitude of the decision. "Eli Warren, you will serve as liaison. Your duty is to both peoples, and to the peace you have helped forge." A wave of cautious applause swept through the chamber. The delegates rose, the agreement sealed in light and oath. The technological exchange began at once. Earth's teams received the first data packets containing Zalith propulsion blueprints, their engineers already poring over the alien mathematics with awe. In return, the Zalith were granted access to the Human Immunity Protocol, medical teams collaborating side by side in the laboratories to adapt the stabilizing treatment for all matriarchs. For the first time, the hum of science and hope drowned out the drumbeat of war. That evening, after a blur of meetings and handshakes, Eli wandered into Syrah's private gardens, a labyrinth of sapphire vines and luminous blossoms, fragrant with unfamiliar sweetness. He found Syrah seated on a bench of living crystal, her posture elegant but weary. Here, away from the eyes of the chamber, the burden of her station slipped away. She looked up as he approached, her expression softer than he had ever seen. "You didn't choose me?" The words were quiet, almost vulnerable. Eli sat beside her, letting the hush of the garden settle around them. "I chose us," he said gently. "If I'd accepted Earth's call, I'd have been their property. If I stayed only as your consort, I'd belong to you alone. But this way, I belong to both, and to myself." She studied him, the faintest tremor in her voice. "You could have had comfort, certainty. Instead, you made yourself a bridge between storms." He reached for her hand, letting their fingers intertwine. "I want to be with you, Syrah. My new role doesn't erase that. It means I can stand beside you, not behind you." Syrah's eyes shimmered, pools of amethyst beneath the starlight. "When I was young, I envied the elders' solitude, untouchable, above all need. Now I have lived in closeness. I have felt trust, and I do not wish to return to being alone." Eli squeezed her hand, warmth blooming between their palms. "You've changed, Syrah." She nodded. And you have changed me. I never thought I could let anyone touch me, let alone want it. Her fingers lingered on his, tracing the lines of his skin. The stabilizer. It means I could always be safe with you. We could be together, without danger. He smiled, a little uncertain. On Earth, we have a word for that. Love. It's not about safety. It's about choosing each other, again and again, no matter what comes. Syrah tilted her head, as if tasting the word. Love. The Zalith have no word for such a bond. Our language was shaped by power and survival, not choice. Eli brushed a stray lock of black hair from her cheek. Then let's invent it together. She drew closer, her breath mingling with his. Show me, she whispered. He leaned in, heart thundering, and their lips met, tentative at first, searching. Syrah's hand slid to his cheek, her touch feather-light but sure. The kiss deepened, a spark catching between them, transforming all that had come before. In that moment, the politics and danger and history faded. There was only the certainty of her warmth and the promise of something entirely new. When they parted, Syrah's voice was husky with wonder. I did not know what it meant to choose. Now I do. Eli smiled, resting his forehead against hers. Then let's keep choosing, one day at a time. As the garden's luminous petals closed in the night breeze, they remained together, hands entwined, a living symbol of trust and the beginning of a new kind of alliance. As diplomats and scientists labored through long hours, the Citadel buzzed with a new kind of energy. For the first time in living memory, Zalith and human voices mingled in shared purpose. The grand halls became a living workshop, crystalline floors thrumming beneath feet of every species, corners blooming with impromptu meetings and debates. On every console, holograms flickered with designs, Earth's propulsion schematics side by side with Zalith biological protocols, annotated in languages old and new. Yet, above all this, it was Eli and Syrah, liaison and matriarch, human and Zalith, whose partnership caught the eyes and imaginations of the galaxy. Their alliance was more than political. It became the living heart of this fragile, hopeful new era. Word spread quickly as the stabilizer was perfected. Vera's team, working with Earth's top immunologists, succeeded in creating a treatment that not only neutralized the matriarch's venom, but gently altered their biology. For the first time, young Zalith matriarchs would grow without fear of isolation or the deadly burden of their own touch. The shift was seismic. Centuries-old customs of distance and command gave way to new traditions of closeness and choice. Human and Zalith researchers worked side by side, translating scientific triumph into social revolution. Cultural exchanges flourished. In one hall, Zalith children learned to play human instruments, their agile fingers coaxing strange, beautiful melodies from violins and flutes. In another, Earth's botanists traded seeds with Zalith cultivators, planting hybrid gardens that shimmered with violet blossoms and blue-green grasses. Eli moved through these spaces with purpose. As liaison, he was everywhere, mediating disputes over intellectual property, smoothing over cultural misunderstandings, translating idioms that lost all meaning in the literal-minded Zalith tongue. His experience as envoy, subject, and survivor made him uniquely trusted. Delegates brought him their grievances, scientists their breakthroughs, young Zalith their questions about Earth and about love. But it was in the quiet, hidden moments that Eli found his true anchor. The endless negotiations, the ceremonies and protocols, all faded away when he was alone with Syrah. Sometimes they walked the winding paths of her private gardens, the air perfumed by blossoms that glowed in the starlight. Other nights, they lingered in the laboratories, Syrah's laughter softening the cold edge of sterile glass. In moonlit halls, they talked for hours, their voices weaving a tapestry of what had been and what could be. One evening, as the eve of the Alliance's signing approached, Eli found Sira waiting for him in the gardens. Her violet skin shimmered with reflected starlight, her feline ears flicking in contentment as she traced patterns in the dew-laced grass. He joined her, their hands finding each other without thought. "Tomorrow, everything changes," Sira said quietly. "Our worlds, our lives. Are you afraid?" Eli smiled, squeezing her hand. "A little. But more than that, I'm hopeful. I used to think the hardest thing was surviving the gauntlet or outmaneuvering politicians. But it was letting myself trust you, and letting you trust me." She turned to him, her gaze luminous. Trust was always the most dangerous thing for a matriarch. We were taught that vulnerability invites disaster. Yet, you made me believe otherwise. They walked slowly, the memory of the past months rising between them, the forbidden touch that had changed everything, the risk and pain and raw honesty it demanded. "Sometimes I wonder," Eli admitted, "if words are enough for what we're building. We've had to invent new ones: liaison, partner, stabilizer. Maybe we need more." Sira smiled, a wistful curve of her lips. "We never had a word for love. Not as you understand it. Now, the others ask me what it means, why I would risk so much for you. I have no answer except that, with you, I am more than I was alone." He drew her close, the distance that had once separated their species now nothing but memory. "The future we're making, it's not just politics or science. It's this: the choice to stand together, even when we could have walked away." They stood in companionable silence, the night alive with possibility. All around them, the Citadel prepared for the historic day ahead, treaties drafted, scientists perfecting protocols, envoys rehearsing speeches. But here, beneath the stars, the revolution felt deeply, achingly personal. Sira rested her head against Eli's, her hair falling like a waterfall of shadow and light across his shoulder. "You know, I never imagined peace could be so quiet, so gentle." He laughed softly, brushing his thumb along the back of her hand. "That's because we always think of peace as something that's won. But sometimes it's just something we choose, every day." She tilted her face up, her eyes reflecting the moonlight. "Eli, I want to promise you something, not as a matriarch or a diplomat, but as myself." He cupped her cheek, heart pounding. "What is it?" "I will never again let fear dictate my choices. Not with you. Not with anyone. You taught me that." He kissed her gently, savoring the truth in her words. The tension that had once defined their every meeting had faded, replaced by something deeper. An understanding that the true revolution was not in treaties or technology, but in the courage to be seen and to see each other in return. As dawn approached, the Citadel's bells rang out, signaling the start of the signing ceremony. Eli and Sira dressed in ceremonial attire, he in a suit woven with silver threads, she in a robe that rippled with every color of the Zalith dawn. They made their way to the grand chamber, the halls now lined with representatives from every allied species. Before the assembled galaxy, Sira and Eli stood side by side. The moment was heavy with memory and hope. Sira extended her hand, once a symbol of death, now transformed by science and trust. Eli took it, their fingers entwining before the cameras, before the world. The chamber hushed. The delegates, the scientists, the hopeful young, all watched as the matriarch's hand, once lethal, now rested safely in her partner's grasp. The gesture was at once simple and world-shaking, a promise that what had once been impossible was now reality. Diplomats would sign treaties, Scientists would announce new breakthroughs. But as Syrah and Eli exchanged a glance, a silent pledge stronger than any oath, he knew the true foundation of this new confederation was not protocol or power, but the trust they had built, hand in hand. For Eli and Syrah, the impossible was only the beginning.